just the body fascinates me, and I was like, what do you mean? This is just if your body does it, like, so what do you mean? You would like hearing like in the 50s and stuff, like they would give women like pills and stuff, medicine to stop, the milk, and it was like, what do you mean?
In the 80s, that when she went to the hospital, she didn't know any differently. The first thing they said to her after she gave birth was like, "Do you want this shot to make you stop?"
Oh wow.
She's not even, I don't even think she's 50 yet. So she said with her first child, she didn't know any differently.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even ask her if she wanted to breastfeed. Literally, she's black woman. Like
Which state was this or country? New York.
Which is still happening, by the way. And so in New York, so there is a birth control called Depo-Provera that once you get it, so on like the manufacturers it says like even they recommend 6 weeks, but in certain hospitals in certain neighborhoods, I'll give you a hint where that is. But women, young women, black women are being given the shot right after labor. And I'm going in, I work for some of the community-based organizations, and I would go in to do like hormonal visits and such, and we'd have no milk. And I would talk to them and like, what's going on? And so it's basically legal sterilization, we know that in the lactation world, but the way that the hospital gets away with it is that there is no real research that it stops. But if you think logically, like the hormones, right, that produce milk and stuff, if you're telling your body, now you're injecting all these hormones, of course the body is going to stop. So the way that they're getting away with it is like but even on, like I said, on the manufacturer, it recommends 6 weeks. So if we can, we know that 4 to 6 weeks is when we're building the milk supply, and that's when we need to feed a lot, right? So if you're gonna do it, wait for 6 weeks. But then the other argument is that this population, right, that they're giving it to doesn't come back for their 6-week checkups, or they come back and they're already pregnant again. So why would we want to make more of them babies? Let's just stop it. And who cares that the babies that are there aren't getting the best nutrition?
Wow.
Right? So it's still happening.
That pisses me off really badly because I didn't know about the depot. Because doesn't depot like shut down like the whole like reproductive system?
It's the one you get every 3 months.
Okay.
Right? You can get it every 3 months.
It's like my nephew had another child, and my great niece was born, and she said right after she gave birth, they give her the Mirena IUD. I'm like, why would they give her the IUD? She wasn't even sexually active. She didn't have a boyfriend because she wasn't with my nephew. Like they were a boyfriend girlfriend. I'm like, why would they give you the IUD? And I'm still trying to understand why. So she gave birth in the Bronx, in Montefiore. So I'm like, okay, I wonder if my experience would be different. But the thing is, I'm different from her because I'm married, right? They treat married women a little differently, a little better. I'm 32. She's like 25, 26. So, but she looks like a baby. So
Yeah.
she looks like she's 21, Yeah. So they probably thought, oh, yeah, we don't want no more of these, black babies around. But with me, it was the opposite. At Presbyterian on 168th Street, it was like, no, you're gonna breastfeed. Whoosh. Breastfeed, like nobody talked to me about birth control whatsoever. Nobody mentioned anything. So I'm like, it's night and day. I'm thinking, but I have Medicaid right now. I was worried they were going to treat me differently because I'm black and because I have Medicaid. No, I was completely shocked that I didn't get that experience, and nobody talked about formula at all. Nobody.
That was actually my experience. I gave birth at Lenox Hill, and I don't know if there was an introduction about kind of your experience.
I know it's
So I don't know. I was thinking about it as people were telling stories, and I was like, I don't know that I really saw anyone breastfeed, but there was also no messages not to breastfeed. So when I got pregnant, I was like, guess you breastfeed. I mean, really, I was just like, that's kind of what I've seen, so I guess you do it. And then I'd go to the prenatal clinics, and they'd be like, oh, when you breastfeed. So I was like, okay, I guess I breastfeed. And I actually got sick in the hospital. I got C. diff, acquired infection in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And the lactation consultant, that was after hemorrhage.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But the lactation consultant who had been, and my baby was in the NICU for the first 36 hours, and she came to me and said, let's get some colostrum, and let's your baby in the NICU. She was the most amazing lactation consultant. Even when I needed the antibiotics, she like printed out paperwork. She was like, I just want to show you right here. It says that it's safe for nursing. For you to
wow.
I mean, I look back when I hear other people's stories, and I was like, I am so grateful for this woman. She went above and beyond, because even one of the days I was there was another person who was like, fine, but this lactation consultant was like, if you want to breastfeed, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't even it. It was kind of like, you're breastfeeding. So, I'm breastfeeding. So like, even like later, talking to my mom, she was just I was born in Nigeria, and my mom, generation, everyone's Nigerian, and she said, she said it was a class status when they were, I guess 70s, 80s, when they were giving birth, that it was a class thing to be able to afford formula. And so it was like, we're middle class, you can do formula. So she's like, I don't even remember how long I breastfed. I think you kind of bit, and I was like, I'm done. So she was supportive of me doing it. She was like, but this wasn't my experience. And so part of the reason I'm actually even here is because I'm struggling with weaning. Like, I kind of want to, because I don't want to wake up in the night and pump anymore, but I actually don't want to wean. And I don't know, because I don't have people around me who really breastfed for long periods of time. I don't even know how to like really wean. Like I've done some because she's doing solid, so she doesn't. But like to go from the some to like, I don't want to go to none. Someone told me that she was able to kind of like nurse at will for almost like 8 more months after like pumping.
How old is your baby?
14 months. Yeah, so that's my big question. I want to know if I can still nurse if I need to, but not have to pump all the time.
Yeah. I feel like we should jump in and start with that. Yeah.
Oh, I want to take over.
No. I had this whole like idea in my head of like, we'll do introductions. We'll do that. But like, let's just go right. Yeah, well, let's just chat. Yeah.
Well, we have someone you want to know from the beginning, right? And then we have someone on the tail end. So we'll start with the beginning just because we'll do that. So I'm Lashanda. I'm a lactation consultant here in Harlem, but I go all over. kinda. And I also teach here at the For Your Birth Space. I teach infant care and breastfeeding. So my breastfeeding journey started, like I was pointing over there, with my daughter who was 10. So I always say I birthed her, she birthed a lactation consultant. So that's how I got into it, and I've been a lactation consultant for 5 years. So as a lactation consultant, my number one thing I recommend for people to do, if I can get them prenatally, is take a class. And take a dedicated breastfeeding class. Until I want to talk to you, I've heard so many things. But people who've been taking, are you planning on taking a childbirth ed class?
I have a doula, so she's doing like some of that stuff with me ahead of time. But
so yeah, in the childbirth ed class they do touch on, but it's not. The reason that breastfeeding classes are 2 or 3 hours is because we take you through the whole span of what to expect. Because I think that's the main thing. Like I said, we don't have the stories anymore. We don't have the children observing anymore. Like it's normal. Like like you said, people went in wounds and stuff, so it's not seen. So we've lost that history, that culture, the culture of breastfeeding, I call it, right? So take a class so you learn it's not supposed to be painful, number one, and the frequency in the beginning is the big thing. People are not expecting these little humans. When I talk about my class, I don't talk about babies because I feel like people think it's this other entity, like these aliens, and they're little humans. We all started out this way. So really take a class and learn that so you have like a baseline of what to expect, and we go through what's going to happen the first few weeks. And like I mentioned, the first few weeks is really when we're building the supply. So it's not about a growing baby, it's about growing the supply too. I like to say you guys are a team in the beginning. You're working together. And like I mentioned before, for me, when I was pregnant, like I said, my little medical background of what I knew, like the body fascinated me. The breastfeeding is like the completion of pregnancy. So we often talk about how great it is for baby and, you know, the immune system and all that stuff. But it also is great for, on this end, right? It brings that uterus back to pre-pregnancy size, reducing hemorrhage, you know, so things like that. All the things about the cancers, we're least likely to get the reproductive cancers. And the longer you breastfeed, and that's with each child. So if you breastfeed this one for 3 months and you breastfeed the next one, it compounds, right? Do all the amazing stuff.
Are always concerned about their bodies after
the bodies,
they
yeah.
birth. Well, you breastfeed, you're burning a ton of calories.
You're burning a ton.
That's so true.
Yeah, and just they're always doing research on the breastfeeding and like human milk and the positive, you know, the positive things that come for that down the line of not just baby for mothers, for the breastfeeding parent as well. So keep going, do it as much as you can, and then eventually you'll wean. But we'll talk about that's another thing. People are like, oh, but you know, in the beginning they're feeding all this time. Are they going to be doing this forever? I'm like, and one of my colleagues makes a joke, and she's like, yeah, when they go to college, I'm going to pull up a pot. Like, no, people, like, let's be real. You don't see a 20-year-old like breastfeeding. Come on, right? So it's not forever. But so yeah, so take a class. You'll learn all of that little intricate stuff. A big thing I do too is knowing your resources and your referrals. So people often get, like I forget your name, Janice, right? You were saying how you were made to feel bad, and in a few months, sometimes you're made to feel bad about it, and because you don't know. And I always say, be kind to yourself. You don't know, especially if it's your first baby. You don't know. You don't know how that little human is going to react. They have personalities even now, right? So they, you know, so you have to have this grace period of learning, like, you're a human as well. But the number one thing you do as a parent is knowing your resources. It's like if my daughter, you know, even at 10, if she breaks her arm, I'm not going to be like, where's the breast milk? I'm going to use it. It's like, okay, I don't know how to fix a broken bone. I'm going to go to the doctor, right? So if you're in your house and you're like, I don't know what's going on, maybe you call your pediatrician, you call a lactation consultant, you call a doula. Being a parent doesn't mean that you have to know everything. Like, be kind to yourself. It's okay if you have to reach out. So know your resources. So if nothing else, have your list of who to call, right? If you're going to be breastfeeding, that's the lactation consultant, you know? Have your pediatrician, have everyone, like, just on standby. And in the birthing world, we know we expect the calls, we expect the questions, keep asking questions. Nobody's going to think that, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm a bad parent because of it. We want you to ask questions because we know that we've lost this as a society. So we're here to answer and do all that stuff on that end. And we just want you to relax, but heal, right, and take care of your baby. So now in breastfeeding, in the infant care breastfeeding class, I've narrowed it down to we're going to talk about baby feeding and sleeping, and we're going to talk about parent feeding and sleeping. That is what we're doing in that first 4 to 6 weeks, because that is what, you know, labor. You know, if it was traumatic or if you had a quote-unquote easy, right, you still have to heal. It is still very taxing on the body to be pregnant and to push out or give birth to a human. So give yourself some time to heal, right, and just have your resources at your fingertips. But nutrition and rest is really what is going on in the first few weeks after birth.
I have a question from an Instagram user. She's wondering, are there resources for finding lactation consultants of color or doulas of color or midwives of color? How would you advise?
In New York specifically, or just in general?
In general.
In general?
Yeah.
In general, there is a website. Do you know it? Sister.
I don't want to say the wrong thing. There are a couple of them.
We can look it up.
Yeah,
and we'll put it on. But there are a few, like, national websites. Are you on it? Like, I put myself on
I
it.
think I have been at this. I don't think I am.
Yeah. I feel like I want to say Sister Midwife or something.
Oh, that
Sister
sounds
Midwife.
familiar.
Familiar?
Yeah.
in terms of doula, and like I'm on there for lactation
Mhm.
as well.
There's
So
definitely
that's the
doula one
only,
too.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
the only one nationally that I would say that I know of. In New York, if they're in New York, Ancient Song
Mm.
Doula
Great.
Services in Brooklyn
Mhm.
is a big one. Uptown Village Cooperative, which is mine. We're all so that's Uptown Village NYC on Instagram. We are all lactation doulas of color. I'm not really sure about New York. I should probably know this. For lactation, no, we don't. But actually, I'm in the works of gathering us all together and maybe creating
Yeah.
one. So I wouldn't say there's a website specifically,
Mhm.
but it's in the
Yeah,
works.
and I know of a few apps that are like in development and trying to get grant work, but they're not out yet.
Yeah.
And then her other question is, what advice is there for moms who had low supply with first child and want to build supply for their second child?
So with each pregnancy, we make more milk. So even if you had what you consider low supply, with it's kind of like your body remembers. The body's amazing; it remembers. So we'll make more milk. So whatever you made before, you'll make a little bit more. So know that and feel confident in that. And if you know that you had a low supply issue before, hopefully you got to the root of why that was a low supply. So if I encounter a mom that has low supply, meaning that she's feeding baby and it's not sustaining baby, the diapers aren't there, baby's not gaining weight, something's going on, then we're gonna do figure out why. It may be sometimes it's not knowing how often baby feeds, so they're not feeding baby as much. So more milk removal tells the body to replenish more, right? Supply and demand. So if that's not the issue, if we're feeding baby adequately, if we're even getting a little pumping in and we're still having a supply issue, then we want to do a hormone check. Hormones make milk. So if there's something hormonally going on, the big ones are PCOS, IGT, which is insufficient glandular tissue, and some other hypothyroidism, diabetes, all these hormonal things. If something hormonal is going on, then the supply may take a hit. So hopefully she found out the reason why, and then if that's the reason, and you happen to have PCOS and that's what it is, and you only made this amount for your baby, again you make a little bit more, but work with a lactation consultant, and I may have her start pumping earlier. So pumping you don't need to do right after baby is born. If there's a separation with mommy and baby's in the NICU, right, then we're talking about pumping. But if baby's there, baby's healthy, everyone's healthy, we're latching baby, we're getting that really good latch, we're making sure baby's swallowing, we're making sure all that is happening, and we don't need to pump. But in instances where we know that there may be something going on, there's a hormonal issue, I will have moms start pumping. Breast reductions also, if there's any surgeries to the breast, especially if the nipple is removed, that is a big one too. The production may be compromised.
Yeah. And she has a follow-up question. Can those tests be done prior to being pregnant? The hormone test, yeah.
So the hormones in the sense of she knows that she has hypothyroidism, and that would probably come up in pregnancy. If she didn't know she had before, then it would probably be seen in pregnancy. But PCOS and all that, those would be things that she may have known that she had prior to. So if those aren't the reasons why, I would wait until after pregnancy, and again feed baby, we can pump a little bit, and if we're still not seeing the milk supply increase, then she can go to her OB to have them do a hormonal draw blood for the hormone.
She says thank you.
Weaning, we're down to it, right? So yes, it is possible to go the whole day without pumping, and when baby's there, they'll just feed. So at this point, the supply is there, and baby knows what to do. But like you said, she's getting solids and everything, and she's probably distracted and wanting to know the world and doing other things. So just feed on her cue, and you don't have to pump when you're not with her, right? Because when she goes there, she tells the body, so once the baby latches onto the breast, we get this hormonal response and the milk starts flowing, right? It tells the body, oh, human's there, I'm going to send milk. But for you, while that transition is happening, right, the body's in mode of, I need to keep making milk every certain amount of hours, right? So your breast may start to feel firm and hard, right? When that happens, you don't have to do a full pumping, so a fully drained breast is going to want to replenish. You can just take a little off the top and say. So you don't have to pull out your whole king boo. At this point, you can invest in a hand pump or manual pump if you don't have one, and just dip out and just hand express, and just until you feel the breast get a little softer. So that may be a minute or 2 or 3, depending on your letdown, and then you're fine to go. So eventually, you keep doing that. You tell the body like, oh, I don't have to release every 3 or 4 hours. I can go longer. And at 14 months, sometimes I say it's like a glass of milk with dinner. You know,
that's actually kind of
where she was just comfort nursing at night.
Yeah,
the night ones are usually the harder ones to wean. Do you have anything to add for your weaning?
Or I mean, I'm thinking about my personal experience with having breastfed 2 kids now. My weaning experience with my first son was that when he was 20 months, I was pregnant again, and I was just like, I'm sorry, no, I'm out. I can't do this. I can't be pregnant. And pregnancy was never easy for me. So he wasn't ready to wean, but I was ready to wean, and I actually felt really good about that because I was like, this is a relationship where we both need to be in it, and I'm not in it. Like, we can do other things, we can struggle, read a book, but yeah, so I forced weaning for that reason. It was gradually phased out, but it was just a couple of months I came back. And then with my second son, we went longer, and he was the one who was like, done. When he was 2, it was the first time that we had a big separation, meaning like 5 days. His dad, his brother went on a trip, and then I joined, and I was like, hey, like I'm here. And he was like, great. I have life.
Weaning is usually harder on our end than
I was teary on the way here.
Yeah. And with my second, I was certainly like, are you sure? Like, we can go and do this forever. But he was ready, so.
And remember, I think people think like, oh, it's a baby, like she's only 14 months of this, but again, they're little humans, they understand. So you'll obviously talk to her in a 14-month-old, brain of understanding, but you can start, like if she is doing in the morning, you can time it and say, okay, we're done. Like have your cue, right? Or when they're eating other foods, it's easier to distract them, right? Or so you can talk to her in terms that she'll understand, or you could just say, done, okay, next thing, or again, offer her the foods or something to see if is it really what she wants to do, or she just wanted to snuggle and comfort, right? But if you got things to do, mama got things to do, and you're gonna have to figure that out.
Because I keep hearing about mastitis, and I really just don't want another infection. So that's my kind of how do I do this without?
So like I said, your body may not be ready, it's still getting the signal to fill up. So when you have that feeling that, oh, it's getting a little firm, you just want to take either hand expressing or the hand pump. So like sleeping, if she starts to sleep longer through the night, and so keep the hand pump by the bedside and just get up and express a little bit.
Okay. And then just kind of draw it out. I'm just kind of wondering, is it an extra hour, an extra half hour, and then it just depends on
It depends on your body, how it reacts.
Got a Instagram question. Any advice for increasing supply when baby is a bit older? I was advised to start supplementing with formula 3 days after my daughter was born because she was losing weight. She's now 4 months old, and I've been trying to increase supply so we can rely less on formula and hopefully cut it out, but I worry that it's too late.
So 4 months in, it's a little tricky because, like I mentioned, the first 4 to 6 weeks or so is when we're really building the supply, and you get to kind of, I like to say, kind of plateaus. So 4 months in, boosting, it would be, don't expect to boost like tons, but we could get a little bit in. Again, more milk out, more milk made. So it would be some sort of combo of feeding baby and pumping to initiate more, tell the body like, oh, you can kind of trick the body at the baby's cluster feeding, going into like a little growth spurt and cluster feeding, so like getting more milk out. But I would encourage her to maybe, if she has the opportunity, to pop into a group, a lactation group led by a lactation consultant. We usually bring our scales, and we can do a test weigh to see how much baby is actually taking out when baby is at the breast. So she can get a sense of what's happening, and then getting on a plan of pumping throughout the day and seeing how much she's pumping out and how much baby is taking out. And then we can possibly decrease the formula because we want baby feeding more. The baby feeding more at the breast too gives that hormonal stimulation to tell the body to feed more, sometimes better than the pump. So I would say, again, if she could meet with the lactation consultant and we get the whole picture to see what's going on and making a plan. Sometimes adding in the galacticogs, we call them, the herbs, can help boost a little bit as well. So we've all heard of those lactation cookies and all that stuff. If lactation cookies are pretty safe, but if you're gonna do anything else, there's these companies out there that sell like these blends of herbs and stuff. You should always consult your doctor first, because even though they're natural, they can interact, especially if you're already on medication. And even then, it's depending on your body. So some people react well to fenugreek, but they'll get a boost, and some people not. So, but if you're thinking about doing one of those, consult with your doctor and try it for at least 7 to 10 days to see if there is a boost. But again, I would have to see what's going on, because it depends on how much formula baby is getting versus how much she's producing. And again, we'd have to do like a plan of pumping to see how much is coming out before we take away formula or reduce, because we obviously don't want baby losing weight.
Yep. So. Cool. Okay. What's cluster feeding?
Do we want a new mom who just gone through it to explain it?
Yeah. That's, you know what I read online didn't really match up to my actual experiences, because the different websites would explain, cluster feeding happens in the evenings. Not all the time. Not all the right, exactly. Yeah, they claim 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Get ready, get your TV and remotes and phones. I'm like, so when my son's cluster feeding at 8 a.m., I'm like, wait, what's going on? What's this? Is this cluster feeding too? And it's like, oh yeah, it is. It's just basically a baby just going through a growth spurt sometimes, or usually. I'm not really sure how often. And they just want to eat. They want to eat constantly. It's like he'll go on, and then he'll be finished, and then he's fussing and he wants to go on again, and okay, you feed him again, and then he wants to go on a third time or a fourth time or a fifth. It's like, wait, when does this stop? And you have to really get into the mindset of okay, this is normal, and not questioning your supply, because in the very beginning I was like, oh my god, I might not make enough milk, and it kind of messes up a new mom a little too much.
So cluster feeding, I define it as if you take the 24-hour day. Again, remember these little humans, they don't work on a 9 to 5 clock like we do. They go on a 24-hour, just like they're doing in the womb, right? 24-hour day. So cluster feeding is for about 4 or 5 or 6 hours. For a chunk of the day, they'll just go into this crazy feeding pattern, right? Cluster feeding, the initial one usually kicks in 3 to 5 days after. It can happen right after birth, but usually 3 days, 3 to 5 days after birth, the initial cluster feeding kicks in. We do talk about it at night, but I usually say 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. is classic cluster feeding time. So just like in the womb, when you feel your baby maybe up a little bit more, when it gets nighttime for us and things start to like quiet down, that's when babies wake up more. Right, so during the day, sometimes we have to wake them up to feed, but at night they tend to be up more. So usually around, again, the average baby, some babies do it during the day, but the average baby, like around 7, 8 o'clock, you're starting to wind down. That's when they wake up. So you feed them, like you said, put them on. They go for 10 or 15 minutes. They pass out. 20 minutes later, they're on again. So it's like up, down, up, down, up, down. Right? It is normal. When I teach my classes, I say it is normal. It can last for a week or 2. Right? And it is completely normal. What is happening is we have a tummy that's about the size of a cherry that's growing to about the size of an egg, large egg, right? So they have to grow that milk supply that is making enough for a belly that's the size of a cherry to now the size of an egg, right? So it's instinctual. They know the more I feed, the more that good stuff is going to come, right? So like I said, you guys are a team. So in the beginning, you're working as a team. They're growing that belly, you're building the supply to feed that belly. So it is completely normal. What is not normal is a baby that's cluster feeding all throughout the day, 24 hours a day. That's not normal. If your baby is wanting to feed every hour throughout the day, that's more of a shallow latch. The baby's just coming on and pacifying themselves. I say that's a snack. They're snacking and then they're sleeping, right? So again, you work with the lactation consultant to get a nice deep latch. When they get more of the breast in their mouth, they're getting more of the meal, right? Not just snacking and pacifying themselves. But for a chunk of the day, 4 or 5 or 6 hours, do expect your baby to just be like a feeding monster. Lovely, cute little monster.
And then when they're 10 years old, like my oldest, be cluster feeding again.
Yes. Yeah, so it never stops. So the first one comes at about again day 3, and it lasts for the first week or 2 of baby's life, depending on your human and how quick they build that supply and feel okay. And then 6 weeks is a big cluster feeding time. 3 months, 6 months. These are growth spurts. So those aren't as intense. It's usually the first one that's intense and people don't know what's happening. That takes everyone out. Right? So I say, we were talking about it before, I think, about having a lot of family around, family and their opinions and stuff. That first 2 weeks of life, no. I say if that person isn't going to be at your bedside at 2 a.m. when that baby's cluster feeding, they don't need to be in your face at 2 p.m. So get your rest. So that whole sleep when baby sleeps is real. Because that's what I was saying, you need to be nutrition and rest, right? So taking that little cat naps, right? Because you want a power nap because in 3 o'clock in the morning when that baby's up and ready to go, they don't care that grandma was there in the afternoon when you were entertaining.
It's
So
funny you mentioned that sleeping baby sleeps. I have an older brother. I have older siblings. My older brother told me at a week and a half postpartum, just because, them said if you sleep when baby sleep don't mean you for sleep, You forget to go do some housework and this and that.
He's like,
I don't know if you guys understand the part.
No, I caught it.
He said, I must get up and do housework and not sleep when baby sleep. And I'm like, but I feel exhausted.
ask him if at 6 weeks old he remembered if his mom was
Or did you have a baby? Exactly. Do you have stitches
Yeah.
under your vagina? Are you breastfeeding? Are you close? No, you're not. And I feel like crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I was like, am I doing
People
something
are so
wrong?
free with their opinions.
Yeah.
Except they don't even make it like opinions. They make it like their facts.
Mm.
You're like, what?
I'm still not a very adversarial type of person. But my mom, I don't know if she's watching this, but she'll tell you, she's like, you told me to shut up like 10 times during labor. And I was like, and I'm going to tell you. Even 10 years now. Like, I was very, again, this is another reason why I got into this field. Once you get, not even just breastfeeding, you were saying, like, that's the first thing. I think the minute you get pregnant, you tell somebody you're pregnant. They're all with their opinions. And I was just like, I want to have my own story. Like, this is not your thing. This is me and my baby. And I remember yelling at the nurse, like, bring me my baby. You know, like, no, you want to sleep. No. I waited 40 weeks and 3 days. So,
Can I ask about comfort nursing? Because I got really, even from medical professionals, I got really different opinions about comfort nursing. Yeah,
how do you feel about it?
I was fine with it. My pediatrician literally raised her voice and said that my baby was gaining too much weight.
Is she still your pediatrician?
We're changing. I actually walked out of that appointment and like felt like the biggest failure as a mom. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was the worst. Like once again, luckily my mom came through and we problem solved around kind of her extreme, the pediatrician's extreme advice, and my mom was like, "Yeah, she's also a nurse, so that helps." So we found something that worked for us. But I've been curious ever since because most people told me like it's fine if you're okay with it.
That's why I said, how do you feel?
Yeah, I was fine with it.
So comfort nursing is okay as long as the baby's not hanging onto your nipple and biting you. So if you're okay, if the baby, they'll just kind of want to hang out there. But if it's painful to you, then stop them or teach them correctly how to get on deeper so it's comfortable for you. But if you're fine with it, then that is the ultimate reason to do it or not do it, right? If you're not fine with it, you're not going to do it. If you're fine with it, then do it. So you cannot overfeed a breastfed baby. So for a pediatrician, so again, we hope she's watching this, if they're telling you that you're overfeeding your breastfed baby, they do not understand breastfeeding, and most pediatricians don't. So the reason, again, that breastfeeding is wonderful is that babies learn to pace themselves. They are not going to get food unless they suck. So do they use you as a pacifier? Yes. They do nutritive sucking, right, to get food, and then they do what we call non-nutritive sucking. They'll just kind of hang out and pacify, right, and digest. And then it's like, oh yeah, I want some more, I'm gonna go in. But when they suckle and send that, it feels different, right? You can feel the difference. The suck is, yeah, exactly. So again, if you got things to do, right, you can unlatch the baby and go on, right? But if you're fine with it and you're sitting there vegging out on a Netflix show and they're there and it feels comfortable, why not?
Is there a time limit? Because some people were like, if it's over 2 hours, if it's 1 hour.
Well, if it's over 2 hours, then if you're again vegging and watching TV, that's fine for you.
Yeah.
I was just having this conversation the other day, like. The suckling, right, the pacifier, the thumb, it's because it's soothing, right? We suckle to soothe, right? So some humans, little humans, have an oral fixation where they want to, right? Some babies always have their hands in the mouth, or I know adults that still suck their thumb, right? So if you find that is your human, that is your little human, then you can put them on a pacifier. Right? If you're like, I got things to do, you can give them the pacifier. Like if you take them off the rack, but they're gonna be like, oh my god, like and wanting to, and some moms think like, oh my god, they're hungry. Not necessarily. They may just kind of want to suck to soothe, and in those cases, I say do a pacifier because you got other things to do, right? Depending on at what stage of the baby. So for a day-old baby, no. For a week-old baby, no. But for a 14-month-old baby, right, or even a 6-month-old, where you know that your baby, you can tell, like, okay, they're gulping, they're feeding. This is a feed versus they're just kind of suckling and playing around. Then you can add in the pacifier. Or some babies will come off and suck their thumb, right? If you know that that's what your little human does, then okay. But at the breast, the baby is not going to overfeed, right? We do have instances where there are moms that have an oversupply, where when the baby is there, even when they're suckling, they're getting more milk, and those are those chunky rolls, right? And so they may spit up a little bit more, but again, it's not bad, right? Breast milk is better than having them be on a bottle that may have formula, or even with breast milk in a bottle, we can sometimes overfeed because the bottle is different. They'll just kind of chug, and it's more so on the person giving the bottles end. It's like, oh, you got another little bit in there, I'm gonna get it into you, instead of letting the baby pace themselves. So when we do teach bottle feeding, we teach pace bottle feeding for a breastfed baby, but all babies should really be paced bottle fed. Are you getting some good stuff?
How do you know if the baby is cluster feeding? Is it just like a time thing? Like, okay, it's in 3 days, it's time now for them to cluster feed, or if they cry? Or how does that?
Yeah. So they're going. So in the beginning, they pretty much eat and pass out. Right. They should be fed every 2 to 3 hours, no longer than 3 hours between feeds, and we time the feeds from the start to the start. Right? So let's say you feed baby at 7, the average feed is about 30 to 40 minutes, it could be, right? And they're on there, let's say 7:30, they go down and they're passed out, right? And they're sleeping. By 10 a.m., they should be on the breast again, right? So you started at 7, now it's 10 a.m., right? They're on the breast again, start to start. When that cluster feeding kicks in, let's say you started at 7 at night now, they were on for 20 minutes, you put them down, and at 8 o'clock, they start looking again. So the hunger cues, hands in the mouth, smacking the lips, right, rooting, looking for the breast, right? Sometimes if you're having them in a swaddle and they're trying to kick out of that swaddle, they're trying to get to a breast. So the feeding cues, or crying is the last one. You want to get them before they're crying. But any of those feeding cues you see again, and even if you notice, oh, they were just on 20 minutes ago, it's a true feeding cue, right? So babies are not manipulators, right? Especially, we hear that a lot too, right? Especially in the first few weeks of life. When we are born, again, I say we, I'm talking about humans, we work on nothing but instincts. We're the most primal, right? We're not asking, like, oh, she had some Haagen-Dazs, I'm gonna go in there and get some, right? Like some Oreos. Ooh, I want some Popeye's chicken sandwich, right? They're not like, oh, right? If they're asking for food, doing those hunger cues, they're listening to that growing belly, and they need to go on the rest, or they need you to hold them, right? You are holding your baby nonstop for how many weeks? 40 weeks, right? We're going to expect them to come out into the world and just be swaddled in a bassinet away from you, where I don't hear anyone, I don't smell anyone, I don't feel anyone. So they're not manipulating you. This is stuff that we need. Touch helps us grow too. It's that it fires those synapses in the brain, right? That helps us grow, and it helps us feel safe. Babies that are held, there's some studies on these too, babies that are held longer cry less. So even if your baby's gonna be a crier, right, that skin to skin, they cry less, right? And those babies grow up to be adults who are more secure in the world because I knew somebody was there. It's the babies that are abandoned. I don't know if you've heard of those studies of like the orphanages in Russia and all that stuff, the babies that are never housed, right? So babies are not manipulators. They need anything that they're asking for. Is it food? Is it touch? It's something that they need to help grow and transition to the world. So the first 3 months after birth, I don't know if you've ever heard the term the 4th trimester, right? So you help the baby transition, right, to life outside the womb. All that stuff is transitioning to life outside the womb. Again, breastfeeding is natural and all this stuff, but they've never done it. they don't know how to get onto a breast correctly, right? They practice on these little fingers, right? So I often say it's like, you're gonna notice that that little human may have a talent for dance or a talent for tennis or something, right? But you're gonna get them a coach that's gonna teach them how to hone in on that talent, right? So the breast, we have the instincts to do it as a human, but we need to be taught how to correctly get on and do it. And part of that correctly getting on and doing it is getting on a nice deep latch so it's not painful to mom, right? And being alert, you wanna make sure that they're actively feeding to make sure that they're transferring the milk well. Again, we know that the breast is food, but you don't know, it's nice, it smells like you. Right? But we have to teach them. We're their first teachers in the world. Right? So, again, in the class you'll learn about the feeding cues and how to look out for them, and they'll be cueing quite often, but if by chance you have a baby that's sleeping and we're getting to that 3rd hour, you're gonna wake that baby up to get on the breast. So yeah, there's another thing that you hear too, like, oh, the baby's sleeping, such a good baby. Have you met a bad baby? Okay. A good baby is not a baby that sleeps for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 12 hours. That's a malnourished baby.
Oh wow.
So in the beginning, they need to be feeding often to grow. It's the fuel that they need to grow. So if the baby is not waking by that 3rd hour, you're waking them. And again, it's not only baby that needs the fuel to grow, we need to remove milk from our breast to tell the body to make milk. So you'll have those loving family members that, oh, hold the baby while you sleep. And that baby will continue to sleep in that family member's arms because they don't know them. They're just gonna shut down. I don't know who the hell you are. Where's my mother, right? I'm gonna shut down. But what's happening, you say, no, give me my baby back because they need to eat and I need to make milk. So thank you, but if I'm not removing milk, I'm not making milk. And if we're not removing milk every 3 hours, you can get a little span of 4. And that 4 hours is the only stretch I really recommend. But try to stick to every 3 hours, and that means that we're not making milk. And then we have a milk supply issue. Lactation consultant comes in, and I got more work to do. Because now we have a milk supply issue and a baby that's not being fed well. So.
I wanted to jump in to talk about something that I see quite often. So I primarily teach childbirth classes, and I'm a doula, so I attend births with people. And I do some lactation work, but mainly it's the childbirth work. But what I often see is, especially around this conversation of good baby, I see that in the hospital, after babies are born, the first night or so, that night might be one of those nights where people are so impressed by how much their baby is sleeping, right? My baby slept for 4 hours. He's such a good baby. Or my baby just like conked out in the hospital, but I got home and now he won't get off the boob. Like it's constant. What's wrong with it? And so to know that, yes, within that first 24 hours, 36 hours after birth, it is quite common for a lot of babies to sleep a lot and need to be woken up to feed. Consider that your baby, just like your body went through labor, your baby was working in that labor too. That baby passed through a pelvis, and that baby's tired. Like it was a long day, just like it was a long day for the person giving birth to that baby. So that baby, yeah, might seem so good while sleeping, but then when you get home at day 3, which is typically when people leave the hospital, 4 and 5, it looks like a shit show. Because now, like, this baby is doing the cluster feed, which is totally normal, and people are like, what happened to my good baby? Like I left that good baby in the hospital, and they gave me a bad one. I mean, I'm saying that jokingly, but sometimes that is like the language that people have to do.
Or they turn it inward, what did I do?
What did I do?
What am I not doing?
Right. I gotta give this baby a bottle because the baby won't stop. Right?
You know,
so again, just like speaking to the point that Lashanda keeps making, which is that taking a breastfeeding class is so great because you get to get this really great vocabulary first. You get to understand the developmental stages that your human is passing through, and you also get, usually these classes are taught by consultants. You get a consultant in your pocket, somebody who you can tap later when you are in the throes of breastfeeding and just need like some support. And it's a life-saving investment for a lot of people to, you know, shove out sometimes a couple $100. Sometimes you can be reimbursed by certain insurance plans, like, to get this help. It's really important. Often it's less than what a stroke costs.
Yeah. What is the emotional upheaval if you have a pediatrician who doesn't know?
Expect your pediatrician to not understand breastfeeding. No one should expect that their pediatrician is going to understand breastfeeding. That's not really their job. Unfortunately.
The pediatricians are for the baby. The pediatrician's worried about the baby. So if they have a baby that is being fed no matter what, and that baby keeps coming back, and that baby's gaining weight, that's their issue. Occasionally you'll have the pediatrician that'll say, oh, you should see a lactation consultant, or God bless the pediatricians that have lactation consultants on staff, right? That is there. But most of the time they don't know. They'll just say, even in the hospital, I was gonna say, not only do you get all this knowledge, but you'll be able to sometimes give the nurses the knowledge or the pediatrician. Because I used to work in a hospital, and you know, I would come in and see the families going home on discharge, and they say, oh, the pediatrician told me I need to supplement. Did they tell you how much? Even something as simple as that, they didn't say. And so then the unknowing family goes home and they're giving these 2 ounces and stuff, and that baby will keep taking it, right? They'll keep going. And now you have a baby that's passed out who's not willing to work on the breast, and now, oh, they do come to the breast and they don't want to do anything because it's not flowing as much as that other thing was doing. It was easy, so we get in this loop. So even something as simple as that, I'm like, our gripe isn't with the pediatricians, and I just want them to change their vocabulary simply to say, see a lactation consultant. I want you to supplement, but also see a lactation consultant. Because if breastfeeding is the goal, breast milk is the goal, then you need to be working with someone who's going to help you get there, because it's not textbook. So like when I teach a class, I say this is the textbook stuff you need to know. You need to know about breastfeeding, you need to know about this, you need to know how much the stomach size and all that stuff. But you also need the referrals to know when it's not going so great, reach out, because it's going to be different. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. I've been having, I do groups, and a couple of the moms after the group one day, they were talking about how there should be a part 2. Like, you take these classes, but there should be a part 2. So we're going to have a part 2. Because once you come back once you have the baby, well, in the classes, we have our fake babies and stuff. And it's such this, especially if it's your first time, it's like this out there idea. You can't sometimes really grasp it. So when you have the baby and you're there to come back.
Absolutely can't grasp it. Like, you're just...
And we're trying to like tailor these classes,
until you've experienced it yourself, the expectation and the way that human beings learn is that you're going to retain 10% of what's taught to you in a class until you have prior knowledge and experience, and that's when you're going to retain a lot more. That's evidence-based. That's just how humans work in learning. Like, but it's true. But it's still like having that 10% education, right? Having the vocabulary, and then having the resources to tap later.
And bring your partner to class with you. If you have a partner, bring your partner to class, because if you're doing 10 and they're doing 10, at least you have
I have a quick question. I'm working with a mom right now who's a friend, so she's like letting me, be her doula for practice. And we've talked about some of her fears, and she's very, very afraid of breastfeeding. She's afraid of the pain, right? She's afraid of mastitis, and she's afraid of cracked and bleeding nipples, right? Does that happen to everyone? Like, how do you avoid that?
Take a class.
Okay, yeah. So
We
she's
see
going
a theme
to
here. So take a class, because she's going to learn about a correct latch. So pain. Let's talk about pain.
Beat me to it.
I've heard that breastfeeding is painful, right?
Breastfeeding is supposed to hurt.
Or supposed to hurt. How many people heard breastfeeding is supposed to hurt? Breastfeeding is not supposed to hurt. So if you're having pain, just like anywhere else in the body, it's a signal that something is not going correctly, right? So, and again, even medical professionals will tell you this, even medical professionals don't, the breasts are a part of the body. Like, so if we're having pain, that means that something is not going right. What it usually is a shallow latch. The baby is latched more onto the nipple. The nipple is where all of our nerve endings are, right? That's the sensitive part. So if something is just chomping down on your nipple, that is going to be painful, right? So that's a shallow latch. A deep latch is getting more breast in the mouth. So getting more breast in the mouth, the breast has more tissue, right? So just like if you squeeze anywhere else that has more tissue, right? It's not going to hurt, right? Even if you put suction on it, right? So it feels like tugging and pulling to a first-time breastfeeder. It may be painful in the sense that this is a new sensation, but it shouldn't be sharp shooting, biting pain. That is shallow latching, or the baby is just on the nipple. So a deeper latch, you get more tugging and pulling of the breast tissue. And do give yourself a grace period to get used to that. So 7 to 10 days, I say you're getting used to it. But that is soreness. So soreness is from something being overused, just like anywhere else in the body. If you were doing squats for 7 to 10 hours, right, you're gonna be sore, right? And I think from my experience in this day and age, people don't understand the difference between soreness and pain, right? Any discomfort that we feel, we automatically say it's pain, right? But sit back and think, is this soreness or is it pain, right? So again, going back to teaching baby how to get deep latch, it's not that comfortable to be with a big breast in my mouth, right? No matter what size, right?
Especially
So,
when all of your meals were just like coming back
exactly,
to
like pulling on that cord.
Yeah. And now I have to breathe and suck at the same time.
It's work, right? It's work. Like I said, it takes two, right? I said once you get evicted from the womb, it's all downhill from there. Or I say, has anyone been on a cruise? Right? You go on a cruise, you go to the buffet, right? What happens on that 7th day? They kick you off the boat and you gotta go figure out where to get your own food. Right? Same thing, right? So if someone's having pain, or the cracked bleeding nipples come from the shallow latches where the tissue is being broken down, right? And now we have cracked and bleeding nipples. So when the baby gets on, again, and I like to do this, if you take your tongue and put it behind your 2 front teeth at the roof of your mouth, go along the roof of your mouth, you feel those hard ridges, keep going back to where you feel it gets soft. That's how far back the nipple needs to go. Then, yes, so more breasts. Do we have a breast?
I do.
Do we have a breast?
People see mine.
Yeah, I'm like, my sister's like, I'm tired of seeing your breast. I'm like, well, you're gonna be tired for a long time.
Yeah.
Ready?
Whoa.
So when, and you'll hear this when you do the class, and she takes the class, go with her, right? So nipple to nose, right? So we aim our nipple at the baby's nose because we need them to go, to open up nice and wide, right? Think about when you're really thirsty, like let's say you go for a run or something, you're really thirsty, when you get your bottle of water, are you gonna go like this, or you go to take it out, right? So same with baby. So nipple to nose, baby opens up wide, and we hug baby onto the breast, right? So we don't dip our nipple, we hug the baby onto the breast because we want to keep the nipple high so it travels along the roof of the mouth going all the way back to the soft palate, right? So they're gonna get more breast in their mouth, right? That nipple's just all the way back there. They use their tongue to milk the breast, right? When it drops, it creates suction and milk is drawn out of the nipple. Sometimes I don't care about the nipple. So if they hear flat nipple and pretty nipple, I don't care. I need the baby to get on the breast, right? The nipple's just the straw. That's where the milk comes out of, right? So it's not nipple feeding, it's breastfeeding, right? So they get on, right, and they're milking. When they come off, the nipple's gonna be round. It should be round, right? It's gonna be bigger from suction, but it should be round. Just like when you finish pumping, you notice your nipple's nice and round. If when the baby comes off, we have a flat nipple, a nipple that looks like a screwdriver, or a new lipstick where it's flat on one side and round on the other side, that is a shallow latch, and that's where our cracks come from, because the nipple is being crushed up against that hard palate, right? And we're breaking the tissue down, and that's where the cracks come from. So crack bleeding nipples is an indication that the latch is not deep enough, right? And we gotta get, and it usually comes from, especially first-time moms are really timid about hugging that baby on deeply. Again, they know they'll give you a nice wide mouth, but if you just let them kind of go on, they're gonna go onto the nipple, right? Just like sucking on my finger, right? But you have to hug them on so they get past the nipple and they get more breast in their mouth, and they're face planted into the breast, right? So if you, and then the other side. And a lot of really like,
for a lot of people, like knowing how to do that is worth the time.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't be nice about it, because that baby's gonna be like, so you have to really be like, you know what's wrong.
Like aliens.
Or the other thing is, so you're gonna be her doula, you're gonna help her, you're gonna get her doula, right? So you wanna get them set up, and I say put your feet up so you naturally recline, right? Because you don't wanna be feeding like this, right? So again, you're really gonna, and this is where I teach a lot to the partners too. We all do it, and I'll teach a class and help someone, like go back to the room and help someone, and they all do this. So you see that shoulder come, you're just gonna lovingly tell, no, keep that shoulder back. You set baby up, and baby comes to you. They have to work. So don't dip, because when we dip the nipple, now we're dipping the nipple down, and it's only in the front of the mouth. Right? So it's positional, right? It's the hug, right? And it's making sure that baby is nice and wide open. Because they will start to go, oh, that's nice. I'm just gonna inch back. When mom feels that change happen, break it. And then, nope, you can't do that. Again, they learn, right? They're not taking notes like you are in class or whatever, but they learn, oh, I don't get to stay on when I'm like that. She only lets me stay on when I'm deeper. And also, they'll start to learn that when I'm on deeper, I get more milk. Here, again, the body's smart. It'll send little trickles of milk, right? But right back here is where we get more. I'm sure you've all seen those beautiful, I love the pictures of the spray when people hand expressing and you see the spray of milk. So cool. I love it. So that's from back here. And so you said you're 5 months? Alright, so don't practice yet, because nipple stimulation brings on contraction. So we don't want to do that. But I want you to practice hand expression. So everyone who leaves my class knows that they have to go home and practice hand expression. So you'll see if you just squeeze here, not much, but the milk is back here. Okay, so if you open this up, we have all those. We don't know how many milk ducts we have in them. We see that there. Right, so the red stuff is our alveoli. That's where our milk producing cells. But the white things that look like veins, those are the milk ducts. So that's where the milk comes out at, right? And again, they all converge at the nipple. Right? So again, if baby is just on the nipple, they're stopping. I always say, if you're drinking from a straw and you bite down on it, what happens? You stop, right? If you were the straw, you'd be like, stop biting me. So yeah, so you need, so getting them to open up wider, teaching them to open up wider, hugging on so they're deeper, are all things that's going to avoid the cracked bleeding. And as far as mastitis is, so people think when their breasts are engorged, right, that they have mastitis. So people will sometimes text me or call me like, I think I have mastitis. Calm down. Do you have the flu? Do you feel like you have the flu as well? So there's engorged breast, meaning that the milk has filled up and there's nowhere for the milk to go. So again, this is a concept that it's kind of hard to get until it happens. But on that 3rd day, 4th day, when the milk transitions, another thing I hate as a lactation consultant is when people say when your milk comes in. And I know I've said it a couple of times. But at 16 weeks of pregnancy, our milk is in. We call it colostrum in the beginning, concentrated milk. It is milk. The milk transitions around day 3. It starts to get more liquidy, right? It starts to change color, right? But your milk is always there, right? The milk What was I saying? Nobody remembers. It's mommy brain. Oh, the engorgement. Yeah. So when the milk comes in, the breasts start to feel heavier. So I encourage people just to, if it's not the 2 hour, 3 hour, you're still gonna wake baby and let the baby drain you. If babies just passed out because they had a really good milk, you can hand express. But we need to keep the milk flowing. Never just keep your breast feeling hard and uncomfortable. If you keep going and you don't wake baby, then we can get mastitis, where it's usually a block of the breast. It's very hard, warm to touch, it's red, and again, you have the feeling of having the flu. So you feel run down. Do you want to speak on it?
Oh, no, I didn't have it.
Oh, you didn't have it, okay.
The first few months is already like,
Yeah.
I have a feeling like the flu on top of it just feels.
Yeah, so.
Fever usually comes first.
Yeah, fever, and then the flu-like symptoms, yeah.
I
So.
think that breast has in it the hard areas for it.
Oh.
No, is it? A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm really loving this interactive element.
Can we do a gift? So mastitis doesn't need to happen. Engorgement doesn't need to happen. I was never engorged until I went out for a night. I went out with my friends and I came home and I was like, whoa! But engorgement doesn't need to happen. It's not something that has to happen in your breastfeeding journey. Again, it's a hard concept to know before the milk transitions, but you'll start to feel your breasts will feel heavier and firmer, and when that happens, we know we need to keep the milk flowing. So that's either baby, number one, or you can hand express, or you can pump a little bit, but it doesn't need to happen.
I want to make sure that everyone knows that there is food here. Because this conversation, you're going, and it's so great. It's also, now that we're talking about like babies eating, how about
but not like the overly engorged breast, like the breast like balloon in size. But I've been like engorged where I've gone like 4 hours. I'm like, oh crap, I need to calm down. Like what the first time I had like really bad, I had training to go to, and by the time I excused myself from the training, I went to pump. I couldn't get any milk out.
Yeah.
And I was stressing out. I didn't have all the stuff that I have now.
Sorry.
You're working out. That's true.
Like I didn't have all the stuff I have now. Like I didn't have like I just wasn't prepared at all. And so I called my husband. I was like, "Can you come with the baby?" Because I couldn't get any milk. I didn't know to hand express at that point. I didn't have a manual pump with me. I wasn't prepared at all. I felt like crying. I was like, either I leave this train or the baby comes. So thank God
he was able to bring the baby.
Fed.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not gonna happen again. And then I ended up messing up. I like last week, and the baby went away for a 24-hour period. The first time he was away from us, milestones. We went to a party. I was pumping, but I didn't pump as often as I should have. Then I wasn't like completely engorged, but I kind of was. Like I was feeling, heavy. Yeah, and then by after like the 4th or 5th pump session, I wasn't feeling like my boobs weren't feeling good, and like to this day I still feel some pain. So I'm like, did I damage myself?
So the ducts probably got a little plugged, right? Because they weren't drained fully. So sometimes when that happens, I say you have to really go in, like so sit down with your pump and your hands. You can even take some coconut oils. Do you feel certain areas where it feels a little harder?
No, I've had a hard plug duct before in the beginning. It's like more of a soreness like behind my nipple. So I'm like, so I took my temperature. I was like, wait, am I getting like like an infection? But I'm like, no, I have no fever, no flu-like symptoms. It's just like pain like in the back of like my nipple, and it heard that during breastfeeding, which I haven't had pain with breastfeeding in so long, and now I have pain again now.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
maybe pay special attention to that area and really like massage it. Put on a warm compress right before you feed, either feed or pump, and pay special attention to kind of really massage or go back in the breast sometimes. And you're gonna feel sore because it's like a good massage, like a deep tissue massage. But sometimes you just have to like kind of really get in there to help. There could be like a little plug still in there, so you know you saw all those ducts, right? So sometimes if we have a backup, like the fatty parts of the milk stay there, and it drains a little slower sometimes. So if you get plug ducts once, we can sometimes continue to get plug ducts. Or like if you had mastitis with one pregnancy, I would say like the next time look out because you may tend to keep having them. So next time you go, or like this Friday, the weekend, maybe tell your husband take the baby, sit down for a session where you know you're really gonna like kind of go in.
So like
right?
massage while pumping?
Before, so warm compress and massage before. As you're on the pump, again, if you feel any particular area, with it being at the areola, it's gonna be hard to get to, obviously. But sometimes when you're on the pump, you can massage as well. And sometimes you'll hit a certain area, a certain duct, and you'll see it spray a little bit more. So just see if you can kind of go in and really drain it, get behind it. Can you take ibuprofen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that helps with inflammation because there could be like, in that sense of that day, right, there could have been a little inflammation. So if the breast does get very engorged and we throw a pump on, so the pump works by like producing this pressure, right? The pre-stimulation being pulled in and out and then producing this pressure where the milk kind of squirts out. But if we already have a pressurized breast that's engorged, it's harder to get the milk out. So it's just making it more pressurized. So in that case, hand expression is better to kind of massage and get the milk flowing a little bit and then put the pump on. So if there is anytime there's engorgement there, trying to hand express a little bit, obviously if the baby isn't there. Or even like in the beginning, so remember I was talking about that milk transitioning around day 3 or so, sometimes we do get a nice little stretch of a nap in 2 or 3 hours and we wake up to really full breast. You're gonna be like, where did these come from, right? And then we go to latch baby and baby can't latch because it's too hard. It's like trying to bite a balloon, right? I can't get on. So in that case, you want to hand express and release some of the milk, even just around the areola, so baby's able to get on and get a good latch and drain the breast. Right? So hand expression, again, is the best to know. It's our original pump. The original pump.
It's hard, like when I watch YouTube videos to do it, it's like, I got tired afterwards. I was like, wow, this is hard.
Yeah, so if you can remember, you'll write down Global Health Media is a really great website. Go to Global Health Media Project, or if you just Google Global Health Media, and they have really great videos on attaching your baby to the breast is one of them, and how to express your milk. It's like different names, but if you look up those topics in the videos, you'll see, and they're in like different languages, so it's really great.
That's the best. I'd be happy to send it to everyone here.
Well, they don't like you to send it. I want to make a donation, but
sorry. I'd be happy to send it to you so you can make a donation. Send me the link. I think probably.
Yeah. But I don't know. To the organization that I work for, they were like, oh, if you're going to be using this like in your things, they would like you to make, because they are free and open to the public, but donate to them. They're really good and they deserve it. But hand expression should really be, again, don't pinch the nipple. There's no milk in your nipple. That's another thing I have all of my clients repeat to me. There's no milk in my nipple, right? So using the areola as a marker, right? Or if you go an inch or 2 or 2 fingertips away from the nipple, just your thumb and pointer finger is all you need. You push back into your chest wall, compress, release. Back, compress, release. You don't really want to rub, right? You don't want to give yourself rug burn, you know? So if you think you saw all those milk ducts, right? we're trying to get behind that milk duct and move the milk forward. Behind the milk duct and move the milk forward. When you're doing this with colostrum, you may have to do it a lot of times, right? A lot of massaging in between. The colostrum, I like to say, is like honey, trying to get honey through a straw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you really have to, massage it and move it forward. So with the colostrum, you'll start to see it beat up a little bit. The more you do it, the more you'll see that little droplet grow. Right? Once the milk has transitioned, it'll be a little bit easier. And then you'll be able to, again, be like, oh, I feel a little bit more milky, or I get more of a spray, right? But back, compress, release. And you can see I'm nowhere near the nipple, right? So it's not it's back, compress, release, back, compress, release, right? So doing that motion helps move the milk forward. What was your question? Oh, it hurting. So it shouldn't hurt. So the baby shouldn't hurt, hand expression shouldn't hurt, pumping shouldn't hurt. Nothing at the breast should be painful. And if it is, there's something that's not going right.
I think I'm going too
pinchy.
Much crazy. I think I'm going too pinchy.
Yeah.
I think my arm kind of like weighs.
Yeah. And if your arm starts to get tired, that means you need to take a break and massage a little bit more. So, some people can even get it like that if you do that. But really massage, being gentle with yourself, really massaging and helping the milk flow in that way, elicit the oxytocin, right, to kind of help the hormonal response to help flow. But if you're stressed and you're like, I gotta get this milk out, it's gorgeous, that's just gonna negate everything and shut everything down too, right? So yeah, that's why I say that's why we have two. So you do one, and then go back, massage a little bit, but
yeah. What advice would you give someone who is about to go back to work and wants to pump? So like pumping at work, like mindset, what kind of things should she bring to work? What kind of consideration should she have? Yeah.
Well, if she's not back at work yet, and if we can, and you have the luxury, I say let your place of work know maybe you want to come back part-time for like the first week or so. Before that, I say do a trial run so you'll know. So if you can have someone watch the baby, you get up like you would be going to work for the day. So you get up, feed the baby usually, and then we're out the door and off to work. We're dropping baby off at the daycare, and then we're out. And then do something where you're out for the whole day and see how many times you're gonna pump and what you'll need. So obviously you'll need your pump. A lot of people bring pictures or videos of baby, or at that time they'll have, if depending on the daycare, they sometimes have, cameras that you can watch, or you can have somebody's watching. You can have the caretaker schedule a call. We have FaceTime and stuff nowadays, so you can schedule a call around that time. Have snacks with you. So, you want to make it as kinder usually if you can. Again, depending on the workspace that you're in and what you have the luxury to do. For the pumping itself, obviously, like I said, you need your pump, the bags. A trick that some moms do, I know sometimes they're discouraged, have you had people do this? They bring the Ziploc bag and
I tell everyone.
Yeah. So instead of like having to clean everything, like if that's gonna take away time, did you do this for going back to work? The Ziploc bag? Yeah. So
Even at home.
Yeah, so you take the flanges off, and instead of having to wash them, throw them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the fridge, so that way it's fresh, right? There's milk on it and it's fresh, so that way when you go to pump the next time, you can just take it out, but you're not having to worry about cleaning everything and, storing everything and that being extra time. And take more time to eat, again, get on the phone, chit-chat with your baby. But yeah, having, like, I usually recommend people, again, you have friends and family that want to help you. Come over on Sunday, cut up some fruit for me, cheeses, whatever, so that way, or if you're taking your lunch to work, have that Sunday, like, everyone come help, and they want to support you, prepare, so that way you don't have to worry about that, and you can just pull it, and if you're, again, have the luxury to have a desk or something, you can be there and eating and not having to worry about going to get food. So making it as simple as you can. Again, that if you have the option to go back to work part-time that first week or two, so you can kind of get in a groove instead of being like thrown into it and you're back in.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
In a second, like get extra pump parts.
Mm.
So, cause like I just bought a second pump part, like extra, so that you don't have to like do the whole cleaning. Cause it's really tedious.
Or leaving them at work, because sometimes we forget that membrane.
Oh,
Like
I'm not at work yet. Like I'm so
Oh, yeah.
old, so I'm just like thinking long term.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know, like I have all of this in place, and like what helps me a lot, like having like nice clothes with zippers.
I was noticing those zippers, and then I was like, oh,
You
right.
don't have to take off and put back on. Like cleaning products, like it makes it like so much easier. And like having all of this like before work, like before you go back, so you're not there like beating yourself up. Oh, I should have had this, I should have had that, you know, because we're already beating ourselves up. Like you don't want to beat yourself up even more while pumping at work. It doesn't make any sense. Or pumping like volunteering or whatever you're doing outside of the home away from your baby.
And I think if you have the privilege of knowing anyone who's at your workplace, who's
That's
done
what I
that,
was gonna say.
Yeah.
What I forgot to mention is that you should
Well, and I
seek
think-
out other people that may be pumping. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm grateful because I've had good experiences, but I was shocked. Like my workplace, where I work part time as a teacher, I remember being like, "Where's the lactation room in the college?" And the head of like the administrative folks was like, "Oh no, that's on the 6th floor. We're on the 10th." She's like, "That's on the 6th floor. You have to go across a bridge." No. I'm gonna reserve a room for you right next door to the adjunct office.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Fell apart crying.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that's too far. You can't reserve it, so I'm reserving. And I have no idea how people react, because I've heard so many horror stories, which are all real and true.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of feel around with other people, you might find out if you have like an actually really supportive space and how to navigate it. 'Cause sometimes you do have to be kind of like I promise to only do it for half an hour kind of space, this quick, and then other places are actually like reasonable human beings who are caring and nice.
So knowing your rights too is a big one as well. And I say if you don't know about your place of business, now would be a good time if you're home on leave to call. And if you have to call your direct supervisor or call HR, and don't make it as a like, I'm coming back, please accommodate me. Exactly. Make it as like, I'm coming back, I'm a breastfeeding mother, I'm pumping, can you tell me where this is? You know, so don't make it like, and if they don't know, you know, and you can go to, we should get some here, I'll get some, but the DOH, Department of Health, has like a nice little handy kind of trifold thing that tells you your rights and the law, and you can very kindly slip that to HR.
Nice.
Oh, but pumping like is good to, like sometimes like it might take like 20 minutes to pump or 15 minutes, but like, don't forget to factor in the time beforehand to get ready and the time after, because like this means pumping is not like what 35-40 minutes, like, and that's double pump. Imagine like one at a time. Like it takes a lot of time, and like I really took my hats off to pumping moms who exclusively pump. How that's like you're like more than your whole, that's like 2 lifetimes like pumping like during the time of your child's existence. Like it's crazy. It's so much work and time, and like
And hydrate. Do not
Oh,
forget
yeah.
to have the water
Yes.
with you at home.
you get thirsty immediately after like breastfeeding or pumping. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to get my water for me. It's like, why didn't you get it? I wasn't thirsty before. No, and then I read that it's like the release of the hormones.
Thirsty, hot, sleepy. Is
It's
when you're
different
breastfeeding.
So why am I immediately thirsty like every single time? It's like, no, I have that water, and not have like a little bottle of water. I'm like, if you can have like a 20-something like ounce bottle or bigger, like a 36 ounce, get a large bottle of water.
Oh, this is great. Because so it's I was asking for a friend, and I was like, do you have any specific questions? And she was like, I don't even know what I don't know. So just ask and tell me what they say.
going back to before we started, we were kind of just chit-chatting. You were saying that exclusive breastfeeding. I've sat across from many NICU mom and validated for them that you are a breastfeeding mom. I hated breastfeeding, and I only did it for a few months. So the ones that have to pump from the beginning, you don't get the luxury, to be able to hold your baby skin to skin, the first time, because they're in wires and all that stuff. It's truly heartbreaking to me sometimes, but yeah, if your baby gets breast milk, you're a breastfeeding mother to me. That's it. So
period.
We're talking about like the exclusive. Again, those are labels for people who need labels. I don't need labels. Like as much work as it goes into. Look, again, I'm not a very adversarial person, but I was like, I created life. What are you doing? I made milk to sustain that life. What did you do?
WHO, like they have like these different terminologies. I'm like, why? So like, no, nothing else, no other food, no drink, no teas. I'm like, so what?
Well, in the sense of like the first 6 months. So in America, the AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, is 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. So it's breast milk breastfeeding, obviously it's breastfeeding. But in the first 6 months, the babies don't need anything except breast milk, or if they're getting formula, it's formula, because the formula is formulated to have everything that they need, and then the breast milk is making that. And I explain more to families in the sense that you may sometimes have, like, again, older, well-meaning families that, especially like in the summertime, I talk about this because they want to give water for 6 months.
Spanish people, it's like, give that baby a bottle.
Why? I've walked into some homes where the baby was constipated because the mother was breastfeeding beautiful milk supply, but was also supplementing with formula that has added iron, and of course, and she's on iron dose, right? So of course and the pediatrician told her to give 2 ounces of prune juice. And the baby had to have been weeks old, not like, it wasn't like a 6 month old, it was weeks old, and I was like, no. Right? I don't go you're a pediatrician, stupid. I've learned to control my mouth, but my face is catching up. So, no, and I explain it. There's no nutritional value to that stuff. Right? The baby's not gaining. It's not like if you want, especially if you're breastfeeding, if you want your baby, you drink the fruit juice, but that baby does not need 2 ounces. So yeah, you'll get crazy things. Or again, even American Academy of Pediatrics says exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, but you still have pediatricians out there that are recommending food at 3-4 months old.
Yes, my pediatrician was like, oh, you could give him water at 2 months. Really? That's not what KellyMom.com said. The mom told me otherwise. I'm like, and I didn't.
There's so much out there. Like, how do you know what to hold on to and what to let go of when there's like so much conflicting advice?
I think for the families that I've encountered that do come to me is that they get that, like you were asking about the comfort nursing, is that when it's said to you, you get that, right? That kind of instinct, like, something just ain't right, and you'll seek out. But there are families that we probably never see that also do not seek out, which is sad, right? Because the medical professional that you're seeing, you would think that they're giving you medically professional advice. And often it's not, it's their opinion, stuff that I did with my baby and all that stuff. Whereas lactation consultants, doulas, childbirth educators, you'll see on all our sites, we only teach evidence-based stuff. If I'm telling you, like I said, I hated pumping, that's a Lashanda thing. But if I'm talking to you about pumping, I'm telling you like that. So, and you have these medical professionals that will sometimes doubt us and say like, oh, you're listening, they didn't go to med school, whatever. But we always are taking continuing education, always is educating ourselves so we can best serve our families. Doctors don't have to do that. And again, when I teach class, I talk about the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is their governing body. ACAR, which is your OB's governing body. You go on these sites are accessible to everyone. You go on these sites, you'll see the same exact things that we're talking about, but So I say just you have to, not unfortunately, fortunately in this, healthcare, the health business of America, you have to educate yourself as well and seek out. And again, parenting, it is instinctual, and it's when you get that kind of, if you have a question, that's why I said in the first weeks and months and stuff, we expect new families to have questions. Keep asking them. If you go to your medical professional and they're wondering why you're questioning them, go. You can always go to a new pediatrician.
That happened to me because I was asking about changes in sleep, and kind of like, I said something around, I heard trying to put them to bed earlier can be better, because she was saying, put them to sleep when you go to sleep at like 10 o'clock at night, and da-da-da. And I was like, I heard earlier from some of the things. And she said, then why ask me? Which is why I'm in the process. And then caught herself and tried to backtrack it. But I think also when even now, my daughter's going through something, and we don't want to call the pediatrician. And I was like, so that says it all.
Yeah.
I don't even want to, it's not a big thing. Hopefully it's not. But it's like, I don't even want to call because I feel like it'll be either over-medicalized and over-prescribed or dismissed. And that's just not, and this is like a nice person actually. And compared to some of the stories I've heard from other places, I actually think she's like a nice, competent person. But that interpersonal kind of like, I have questions, and it seems like that doesn't feel good for you, for me to have questions. You kind of just want me to do what you say. And I'm like, that doesn't fit with how I think about parenting and wanting people on my parenting team. So I think the other thing is like, it can't just be a nice person.
Yeah. That's really key, I think, to build a team, to build the parenting team. I love that. Build your birth team or your newborn support team. What does your family need in order to make it through these very important developmental milestones? And understanding that the medical professional is just one part of that team, and understanding too that their training is to intervene with medicine, right? So when we're asking questions about sleep, or when we're asking questions about breast milk, their training isn't first to trust the human body.
It's to seek a problem.
Yeah, it's to find out what the problem is and to intervene this way with this supplement. Formula is the medicine for the baby who's not getting enough milk. It's not demystifying what the problem is with the milk supply. But we don't understand that as consumers, right? But it's important for us to.
Yeah, and I think that's a key word to consumers. Like your pediatrician, your OB. Like I changed OBs that interpersonal connection. Now she said something, I was just like, no. If I don't feel comfortable, right? They are, again, it's a health business, and they are, if you went into the Gap and you didn't like something, you would go someplace else, right? It's the same thing with your OB or your pediatrician. If you don't like it, there's just something not, trust that. Go seek your tribe.
I'm here doing the work today because 10.5 years ago, an OB insulted me while I was 30 weeks pregnant.
Oh my gosh, what happened? Sorry, do you mind me asking? What happened?
I told my OB, who I didn't like when I was pregnant. This was just a person who I was going to for an exam, and I didn't seek out a person who I trusted because I just thought, this is your job, you'll do it fine. I kind of know how I want to have my baby anyway. And I wanted to give birth in the birthing center, which is no longer in existence here in Manhattan. And I told my OB that. I was naive. I didn't know that I had to have an OB who would have privileges there and be able to accompany me while delivering my baby. And when I told him that that's what I wanted to do, he said, well, would you ask a stewardess to fly an airplane? And I was like, maybe. And that was his response. He was like, that is below me. There are midwives there. I don't do that.
Wow.
And so I was just like, oh, okay. And my mom was the person to the rescue, and she was just like, fire him. You don't have to go back. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to go back. And then I found midwives who gave me the best care I've ever had in my life, and then stumbled on this world.
Yeah. I guess there's so much you don't realize you don't know until, a big part of what I want to start doing with modern media too is like, how do you advocate for yourself? And like, you're just because you have this one person doesn't mean that you're like stuck with them. Yeah.
And that's hard sometimes too in being a Black mother or a Black person in certain populations, because they feel like if you do push back, that, you know, like again, in certain populations, ACS can be called on you for your child and stuff. And so it stops a lot of Black women from doing that. But again, knowing where you can go if that does happen, because sometimes it will happen, not because you're a bad mother, but because that medical professional is racist, right? But knowing where you can go and take that. I tell my families all the time, whatever color, when you're in a hospital situation, know that you can call patient advocate. Every hospital has a patient advocate, so if you're not having a good relationship or something's going on, you should call patient advocate before you leave the hospital, and document everything in your head before you leave. Ask for your medical records, because sometimes you ask for them too late and you can't get them, or delays. But if you feel like you weren't treated fairly in the hospital, most likely you were not, right? And so don't be afraid to, again, know your stuff. Again, that's why I say take classes, know what is normal, what's the evidence-based stuff, because you will have that either doctor or nurse that'll say something, but when you say, but oh no, isn't, like they'll come in and they'll want to feed the baby a bottle or something, it's like, well, can I hand express and get colostrum first? And it's like, oh, she knows her shit. And it'll give them pause. Because sometimes they'll just want to be like, you know, again, not to bash nurses or everyone's lovely, but sometimes there is, you know, someone who on a night shift and I'm about to get off and I want to go, you know, I'm going to see. And unfortunately, it gets taken out on, you know, the person that they think is least likely to know. Right? So, yeah. It's like you have to go into sometimes battle when you go into the medical field, especially as a woman of color.
What are some good ways to de-stress, to remove that stress from the situation? Because I know so many women have said to me I'm pregnant and I'm terrified, because when I first started the site, it was like when you would type into Google Black mothers are, it would auto-populate with single and abusive. And now it's dying because of all the research, which is it's great that it's out there, but also now it's such a dour picture. So it's how do we celebrate this momentous occasion in our lives, but still be prepared to do battle?
You want to go?
I think we gather around and laugh a lot and listen to each other. I'm making a joke, but I'm actually really serious.
That's exactly where I was going.
There's a model called Centering Pregnancy for women while they're pregnant, and what it really is about is women coming together and sharing their resources and their experiences and talking to each other and being validated that, you know, they are having some experiences that are similar to other pregnant people at the same time. And the research shows that reduces our stress. And if you can reduce your stress, then you can perhaps have better outcomes at birth and after.
I think doing a little bit of research before, and again, I keep using the word track, but I know that's sometimes not appropriate. So my native people, I'm sorry, but I can't find the better word. So finding your people and, like you said, just finding that community. Finding the community and know that it is out here. So with Black Breastfeeding Week, Kimberly Seals Allers, who was one of the co-founders of that, I saw her speak a few weeks ago, and she was saying during this time we don't talk about
the negative part of it. This Black Breastfeeding Week is to celebrate it because Black women do breastfeed. We do breastfeed. We do home birth. We do birth beautiful, healthy babies and live and thrive. And it does happen. And it's happening. The reason that we have to highlight it again is because of the culture that we're living in right now, that we've always been living in, of America, and the racism that's happening, that it would become now the others have become aware of it. We've always known that going into the hospital system is not great for us, for our bodies, but the medical system has not been great to us since the beginning of time. But we have always done this. Like with breastfeeding, again, when I found out about it, it was the negative connotations that women are doing it because of slavery. But so when they say Black women don't breastfeed, I'm like, well, who was your great daddy fed by? Great granddaddy fed by, right? Because that's who was breastfeeding. So all these people who are so against the negative Black body and all this stuff, you were literally nourished on this Black body. This nation was nourished on our Black body. So we've always done this. The reason that they put such a negative connotation on it is to take away our power in doing this. But we've always done this. Our bodies can do it. We continue to. We're out here. So keep seeking out, like you said, you were looking for events of the Black breastfeeding. There's always events. There's actually, if I can get myself together, I met a woman who had the most beautiful home birth experience, and I was like, and she videoed it, and I was like, I want to show it. I want to, so, because, and then when we were, so I'm also one of the facilitators of Chocolate Milk Cafe. You were talking about Black breastfeeding groups. So we have a group in Harlem, in Yonkers, in Brooklyn, and in Newark. And we were at a Chocolate Milk Cafe, and she was talking about her home birth experience. And then one of the other facilitators was like, yeah, I had a home birth. And then the other mother said, I had a home birth. And there were 5 people in the room who had a home birth and 2 Black midwives. And we're like, but people don't see this, right? And it was like, so I was like, yeah, we need to like video this and get it out there and have those images shown, because again, one of the reasons why Uptown Village, my company, exists is because representation matters. And that's why my daughter, because if you don't see it, you don't know. You don't, right? And then it becomes this concept. When I was getting into this, you don't know how many older Black women tell me, oh, you're doing that stuff, you helping them white women. White women do that stuff. No, I like, so it's just like, sometimes you're like, what? I don't understand. But again, it's breaking that generations and generations and going in and chipping away at all that stuff. But know that when you choose to do it, sitting around and encouraging your friend to do it, we are breaking those myths. We are, and we're changing. We're literally changing the tide of the future.
Chills. Huh?
The post, how they said they had 9 beautiful photos of Black moms.
Oh yeah,
breastfeeding.
yeah, I share that.
So they have some, it's kind of
Huffington Post. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not just kind of like the 1 month old. It's like, and they're 2, and they're 2.5. So just kind of the spectrum. When you were talking about kind of the representation and just being able to see it, I saw that and it's like,
yes, it gives you chills.
So,
right?
Yes. So I think it's exciting to know that more and more people are having the conversations, but it's still, like, I remember I nursed on the train one time, and I just remember how, like, I paused even before I made the decision, because I was, like, running late. I wanted to go home and nurse, and then I was like, it's going to be too long. Even if it's just 20 minutes, like, why am I so whatever about this? Like, why does it bring all of this stuff to mind? And it was, nothing happened. Like, I still had some of the horror stories that other people had unfortunately experienced, even in New York, and it's totally fine. Nobody even looked or cared, but it just made me so sad that I even paused and even thought to be like, oh wow, you're just gonna have to be hungry for a little bit longer. And it's like, what is this around, like, I don't know if stigma is the word, but just this, there's so much around breastfeeding. There's so much, and then there's also on the flip side so much power around it, and not to minimize any other form of feeding, like formula. Everyone makes the choices that work for them, but it's just that everyone should have the options to make the choices that work for them, and that's what I'm finding so troublesome, that people don't have the information
And not
to make the choice.
the information. So yeah, with like in lactation and childbirth and stuff, it's if you don't have the information, so informed consent, is that really a choice? That's what we're trying to get across to people. If you don't have the correct information, are you truly making a choice? Right? So getting the information and you know, for me personally, again, this is my personal view, is that again, it's breastfeeding is it's part of pregnancy. It's the way you raise healthier adults, right? But again, if you can, there are certain situations where women cannot, then that's where formula comes in. Again, on a level that I don't expect my families to know, but know like behind the scenes what lactation is working for, is that we want more milk banks. Because if you can't breastfeed, then the next best thing should be human milk for human babies. So we should have more milk banks. And then if there's a shortage of milk banks or not access to milk banks, then that's where the formula comes in. Like Naima mentioned that it was created as a medical thing. If there wasn't access to human milk, then we needed to feed the human. That was why. So these wars that are out there was not created amongst the mothers. It's created amongst the business of feeding humans, right? So we can go back and forth all day. I do, again, as like postpartum doula, lactation, it's not to judge. But if somebody wants to get human milk, that's why I went into this profession. This is the job, right? But there's many times that I've walked into rooms and I'm like, no, we need to send the partner out to get some formula because milk is not being produced. Something's happening, we need to feed the human. It's a bridge or it's an avenue to get to the breastfeeding if the breast milk and the breastfeeding is the ultimate goal. But there's many times that we use formula. There's nothing against formula. Again, it's the business of it is where the issue is.
We did for Kimberly Seals Aller's books, the Big Letdown.
Yes.
If you want to read more about the business of the formula industry that is responsible for the mommy wars, that's responsible for all over the world not breastfeeding and formula feeding is being a symbol of status. Like they created that to sell billions of dollars of formula.
Well, you were mentioning about your experience on the train feeding your daughter, and that I guess it was a feeling of like, was it apprehension or? So I have that feeling every time I nurse in public because of what I see online and the backlash women get, like the woman KLM, the normalizing breastfeeding woman. I forgot her name. She had a podcast this morning. Like she interviewed a lady who was told to cover up on KLM.
Is it Vanessa? Vanessa Simmons? No,
yes. Yep. And like I was so excited because she like commented on my comment on Instagram. I was like, oh my god! Like she noticed my comment. Anyway, so of course she saw it. But so like like hearing about all these different women getting the backlash, and every single time I feed my child in public, I feel like this apprehension, and I don't look at anybody. I look at him and only him because I don't want to see a disapproving look. I don't want to have to get somebody's face or get
nursing. It's like this is the time I need to be the least stressed. Honestly, I need to be the calmest and the most connected. And it's there's situations in public where I'm like a little less nervous, but there was something about being enclosed on a train where it kind of felt like if someone said something, like if I'm in a park and I really needed to either say something or leave, that feels different to me. I'm still not trying to. In the beginning, I was really just not trying to look at people now. I'm kind of like, unless you're about to come feed this child, don't tell me anything.
Right.
But yeah, it was something about on the train, and it was something about here, because there's been other places like we were lucky enough to be able to go to South Africa for her first birthday, and for some reason, maybe because I didn't have the stories, I actually felt much less stressed out, and I'm fed everywhere. I fed on the plane, I fed on a carrots, and I don't know if breastfeeding is more or less accepted there. And I was in Cape Town, I have no idea, but it was nice not to think about it because I didn't have the stories. I didn't have any preconceived notions, so I was just kind of like, and you know what, especially in the summer, it's hot. I don't want to cover up.
Right.
I don't want to. Although every time I think about if anyone did tell me to cover up, I don't know if you've seen this image of the woman.
Will you put this?
Thank you, ma'am. Order one.
I forgot.
Exactly. There's this woman in the UK where they wrote a letter to a newspaper, and they were like, to the woman who squirted me with her breast milk. Because this random woman decided to tell someone breastfeeding, you shouldn't do that in public, my hust's staring.
That's your problem.
Thanks. And
Right.
that's what the woman said, and then she was like, squirt. I was like, I don't know about that reach, but
That's what I was gonna ask. I mean, is the issue that women's bodies are just so sexualized by everyone?
100%.
It's like nursing my child all of a sudden is
Whereas
sexual to you.
I just saw a post on Facebook the other day. Somebody commented on someone saying that, yes, you breastfeed, we get it. You don't have to have your tits out in every picture. But she commented on the girls' wall and was like, but your tits are out in all your pictures. So you heard of somebody being kicked out of Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
And it's like,
What?
really?
Oh, God.
So yes, it's something about the breast being shown when it's actually shown for what it was created for, right? Of a human attached to it. It's just, but also knowing your rights too. Again, if you're at a store or something, you'll be like, it's my right. Here it is. This is the law. This is
supposed to be Target.
Yes.
It's supposed to be
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah, and then the world of social media, we do have the genre, so you can at target.com or at this.com, this is what I was told, and somebody is gonna be kind of right on it, so you have that in your back pocket. But I think it's something about being on especially I don't want to say especially, but in New York, it's that vulnerability because you have your child. It's being with your child, and because people even if your child's making too much noise, they want to look at you, and it's it's that mama bear. It's I'm gonna protect my child, but I can't go too crazy because I have my child with me, But people are gonna say I remember the umbrella strollers, once they get to that age, I was pushing my daughter in one, and she was sleeping, and I was able to go into a shoe store and shop and not worry about her, and the security guard was her neck, and I was have you ever seen a 3-year-old at the chiropractor? Mind your business. I got an hour to shop in the shoe store. I was just everybody has something to say about anything. It's mind your business.
It's too hot. Don't put pants on them. It's too cold. I mean, a perfect stranger.
Yes. Just have the liberty to just want to say whatever they want to you.
And at the same time, though, I've seen people be hugely abusive to kids on the train.
And
everybody
says,
Yeah, it's true. I definitely see that.
And all of a sudden, now we want to mind our business.
Yeah. I got so upset because I was in a park having a business conversation with someone, but I was overhearing because I'm nosy. I was overhearing this woman, and she was she had a nanny. The nanny was black, the woman was white, and they were watching this black woman with 4 kids and pushing a stroller. And she was one of the kids was asking for money to get something, and she snapped at him and said no. And then the white woman or the white woman's daughter tried to toddle over to one of the kids, and the mom was like, no, get back here. And as the family walked away, she was like, did you hear the way she spoke to her child? They're going to grow up to be bastards. And the nanny, the black nanny, was like, oh yeah, I bet she like beats them and like said all this stuff. And it was just like this narrative of like abuse is like even something that we like put out as well. Yeah, it was just like, so
Like, she got 5 kids.
like, what would you do if she had a nanny to like hang out with her kids at the middle of the day? Like, maybe she wouldn't be snapping at them, but like, no, it's not.
That is
It's like to say all her kids are gonna be bastards and like you're terrified of your like, you know, child like trying to play with them. It was just, and that woman, the nanny co-signing, I was just like, so yeah, I have X amount of followers and
And then on the flip side too, like what nanny's gonna come at her.
right, yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to excuse.
No, but it's like it's a fraught situation, yeah. So I was just like, ugh. But yeah, I've become more sensitive to like whenever I see a mom just like going through it, it's like, do you want me to? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I offered stuff. So takes a village.
I'm sure they can do it. Down in our minds, you know, like I'm a part of WIC, and like I've spoken to some of the WIC moms. The moms go to WIC with the breastfeeding peer counselors, and they're like, when their kids were younger, they wouldn't accept help from men, especially who are offering to help carry the strollers up the stairs to the subway or down to the subway. They're like, no, we got this, because they don't want to get used to getting help, and then the next time they're so used to it that they don't get help, they don't want to be disappointed, so they're like, no, I got this.
That strong black woman narrative is just so, yeah, it's a killer.
Yo, I accept help. I don't care. Like, but I've seen women struggle too with their story, and I go and I help them. I'm like, this is like a decent human being thing.
Right.
It's not about black, white, Asian, or man or woman. It's just a person helping another person.
Yeah.
And they're like, thank you so much. And the gratitude.
Because they're not
faces.
expecting it.
It's sad, you know? It's like, dang.
Well, when you kind of your point to, I don't know about South Africa too, and it being like kind of friendly, what their level of friendliness is, but it's the society, right, being child friendly or breastfeeding friendly. So if it's, and I want to say they probably were there because you felt, I'm sure if you walked into a situation, you would have felt it. So if the fact that you didn't feel it is probably because they were more breastfeeding friendly.
Like she has New York face. Like I can see people come up to be like, so many pictures like absolutely. We got there and like she was in the midst of like the separation anxiety, didn't want to be helped. We got there and she was like, peace out, mama.
And
so
she felt it.
Yeah. You could feel how much people love kids there. Like genuinely, the hotel we were in, we'd be in our room and she'd start fussing. I was like, you can't fuss. Your audience downstairs. And I kid you not, by the time we would get down from an elevator from the 3rd floor, she'd be like, oh yeah, because she was like, where are they? Yeah. We'd be like eating and trying to feed her, and the women who were, and men actually both, who were kind of giving people food would be like, oh, we got her. And so they'd have her in one hand and be taking orders with the other. And they'd be like, no, eat. And they'd just be walking around with her. Like, people were, you could feel.
I think you feel it. Like we went to Bermuda in May and we got out and we took the bus around, but like as we're walking and people were talking, and I was like, just the way that they're talking to it wasn't like, oh, you're a tourist and I want to be nice to you. I felt like they were just family friendly there, and that the kids matter. It wasn't like looking at it like a kid, but it was like, oh, this is a person, you know. So it's about like the feeding in public is, you know, and in America, right, even with like I mentioned, the AAP says 6 months exclusive, right, but when do we go back to work, right? So it's even when you're looking for like your pediatricians and stuff, like we were saying, you want to find people who are really supportive, not tolerant. So it's something to say like, oh yeah, you're gonna breastfeed, that's great. But when you come in, they're like, oh, that's not going well. We should get you some formula, but not giving you the access to a lactation consultant, or or having that. So there's a difference between. I try and really get to my families too that there's a difference between being tolerant and being really supportive. So I feel like America is going more towards the tolerance. Like, yeah, it's the trendy thing to do now, right? But is it really supportive, right? It's not just supportive to say like, oh yeah, you should do that, and we're getting like, some insurances will pay for lactation consults and stuff, but like really, it's really the everything in your everyday life, not being worried about where am I gonna pump, or like it being penalized about taking that time, or when you go out someplace of like having to think or having to give pause. This is not a supportive society, so it's really, so when you're thinking about support, you really want somebody who's going to support you and not just tolerate, oh, that's that nice trendy thing you want to do for now,
and expect you to stop by like 2-3 months or something. Like my son's pediatrician, he's nice, but nice is not enough. Some things he said, oh yeah,